that I'm going to have to restart Zoom. So my apologies. I'm going to leave and come right back.
Okay.
Well, it would not be a webinar if something didn't go wrong. So par for the course, and let's get started.
Perfect. Now we can see your screen, Scott.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Well, I appreciate the intro. Thanks so much for your patience. So a couple things just as we get started. We're going to talk a little bit about my firm, Venn Technology, who we are, what we do. And then from there, we'll spend some time talking about this application called Salesforce.com. You may have heard of it. And then from there, what are some reasons people choose Salesforce? And we'll wrap up with a brief, very high-level demo and close out with some Q&A. So I am Scott Hallra. I am the founder and managing partner of Venn Technology. We are based just outside of the Dallas, Texas area. We are actually we're in the midst of an ice storm today. So I'm actually normally in the office working from home, and my kids are home from school. Since 2020, I'm pretty sure everybody's used to having kids in the background. So I guess this won't be any different, but I'll beg forgiveness in advance. So at Venn Technology, we have something we call our brand promise, and that is that we create systems that free people to focus on what they're best at. Chances are you were hired to do something, and managing processes manually, exporting data out of one system and manipulating it to get into another, that's probably not what you were brought on to your company to do. You were brought in to do bigger and better things. We at Venn are so passionate about what we do that we actually wrote a hit song and created a music video. When you get a minute, head over to YouTube and check out Integrate, Automate, Be Free. It'll put a smile on your face, I promise. All right, so there's a couple aspects to our firm. We are big on integration. In other words, taking data from one business application and getting it into another business application without a human having to go in and do anything with it. A lot of our business focuses around Salesforce, and then a lot of our business also focuses on a mid-market accounting product that you may have heard of called Sage Intacct. Over the years, we have connected tons and tons and tons of applications to both Salesforce and Sage Intacct, and the logos that you see there on the right side of the screen are just a small set of the applications that we've worked with. We've been in the Intacct marketplace since 2015. Over the years, we have won multiple awards from Intacct and from others. And I've had the privilege and the honor of speaking at the annual Intacct conference for the last several years. On the Salesforce side, as we'll get a little bit further into it, you'll come to see that Salesforce is both deep and wide in terms of the capabilities that it offers. And something that is really important to us and something that is really important to our clients is that our consultants are experts in the tools. And one of the ways we demonstrate that expertise is through various certifications on the Salesforce platform. And so we like to highlight the fact that we're highly credentialed. As far as where we work within the Salesforce system, we will come in and help organizations implement it from the ground up. Or if you've already been on Salesforce for a long time and you need some help taking it further, tweaking it, making it work better, we can come in and do that too. And then with a lot of organizations, part of that making Salesforce better involves extending the capabilities by adding different modules. And we're experts in many areas of the platform as well. As far as industry expertise, I realize that we're really focused on a nonprofit audience today. Nonprofit is about 45 to 50% of everything that we do, but we've worked in just about every other industry vertical that you could think of. And so when we work on Salesforce, we're able to approach it with perspective coming from a lot of different places. So Salesforce, much like we have this partnership with Sage Intacct, we are an official registered consulting partner with Salesforce.com. At Venn, there are some things that are just core to who we are and how we operate. We are big believers in using configuration wherever possible. We view code as a last resort. In fact, I've spent the overwhelming majority of my career in the business technology space, and I can't write a line of code to save my life. And one of the things that we love about working with Salesforce is there is so much you can do to build out the system without having to write any code. There's definitely a place for it, but you can go really, really far. And so when we build these solutions for our clients, we want to build solutions that are going to be easy for them to maintain over time. And that's why we really lean toward configuration and code as a last resort. The next thing is that we look at the big picture. We have customers that come to us and say, hey, we have this and this, and we need to get them together. And oftentimes there are actually other components, not just the two pieces that they come to us with. And so we really have to think about where does it begin? Where does it end? And so when you work with Venn, we're very process oriented, and we're going to talk ad nauseum about where things begin and end. All right, so let's shift gears and talk a little bit about Salesforce. Salesforce was one of the early cloud companies. They were started in the late 90s by a former Oracle executive named Mark Benioff. He had done really well at Oracle, but he had this vision for what we now know as the cloud. And he started Salesforce.com with a handful of his buddies. Today, it is one of, if not the largest cloud platforms in the world. And this is my opinion, but I think that there are others that would validate this as well. Salesforce really is responsible for driving the cloud concept into the mainstream. Chances are the organization that you're with is running one or more cloud applications. And at some firms like our own, we don't own a single server. Everything that we do runs in the cloud. And Salesforce really, really drove that into widespread acceptance. Getting a little bit more relevant to our audience today, something that's important to note about Salesforce is that they give back in big ways. Salesforce is a for-profit organization, but they're incredibly philanthropic in what they do. Salesforce pioneered something they call the 1-1-1 program, where they give 1% of their product, 1% of their people's time, and 1% of their resources to nonprofit organizations. The stat that I have on the slide here, that $1.3 billion number, that stat's old. That's the most recent one that I could find. I have a feeling that number has grown substantially since the last time I was able to find statistics, but $1.3 billion, that's a lot of technology, volunteer time, and cash grants that they've given out over the years. All right, so the part that you've probably been waiting for, if you were intrigued enough to join the webinar because of the title, my guess is the word free jumped out at you. So let's talk about that for a second. Again, Salesforce is an incredibly philanthropic organization. And since the beginning, Salesforce has really had a heart for the nonprofit world. And a big part of the way that they give back is through their product grant. Any 501c3 or higher ed institution can get 10 free licenses of the core CRM application. We often get asked, okay, well, wait a second, what happens if I need more than 10 licenses? Or what if I need something beyond just the core CRM? Salesforce gives extensive, deep discounts to nonprofits who need more than those 10 licenses. So to give you some frame of reference for what those discounts look like, a for-profit organization like my firm pays $150 per user per month for a Salesforce license. Nonprofits get that same exact license for about $36 per user per month. So as you can see, if you do have to go past that first 10, the discounts are very, very generous. And then Salesforce also offers a number of add-ons that are free, and they enhance the product further to make it work more friendly for a nonprofit organization. So one of the questions we get asked a lot is, why Salesforce? There are tons of donor management systems out there. You know, why choose that one over some of these others? Well, I have something that I think of as the smartphone analogy. My guess is that if you were to go into an AT&T or Verizon or Sprint store today, you're probably only going to find Apple and Android devices there. But 5 years ago, you might have found a Windows mobile device or a BlackBerry device. And a big part of the reason that you don't see those today is because they didn't have the ecosystem that Apple and Google have with the Android and iOS operating systems. Salesforce is more than just this CRM application. Salesforce is this massive ecosystem where developers have created tons and tons of applications that can extend the capabilities of your system. So Salesforce pioneered this thing called the App Exchange, and it is like the app store that you have on your cell phone, but for your CRM application. Numbers are probably a little off again, but last time I looked, there were over 3,400 apps out on the App Exchange, and there's no way to even describe the breadth of what these apps do. There are tools that will help you with online giving, event registration, donor management. There are tools that will help with data quality, or tools that will perform customer surveys, or advanced mail merge of documents so that you can really quickly and easily distribute end of year tax letters. So when you choose Salesforce, you're not just choosing Salesforce, you're opting into this massive ecosystem that's going to allow you to really extend the capabilities of the application. Part of what makes the App Exchange possible and this extensibility possible is that under the hood of the pre-built application, Salesforce is a platform that allows developers or people like me that that don't write code to go in and build these really cool solutions. And so we can add our own objects into the system, or in legacy terms, we would have called that a table in a database. We can create our own custom fields. There are a number of process automation tools that will do everything from send an email when this happens to managing approval processes. There are all kinds of automation tools built into the platform. A major driver of Salesforce's success is the openness of their platform. And so Salesforce develops everything they do with what they call an API first mentality. API stands for Application Programming Interface, and that allows you to get that data in and out of the system very easily. So within the Salesforce platform, again, you're not just choosing a product, you are choosing this platform that is capable of doing all kinds of things. In our experience, 80% or more of the nonprofits that we see start using Salesforce as a donor management system. But the projects that we really enjoy, not that we don't enjoy the donor management projects, but the projects that are really fun are the ones where an organization sees the value of what the platform can do across the organization, not just in the donor development group. And so we'll talk about a couple of different use cases that are separate from donor management. The first is actually with a large church here in the Dallas area that we worked with a number of years ago. And interestingly enough, they use Salesforce not to track how much money is coming in to the organization, but they use it to track how much money they are actually distributing to partner organizations. And so people that work within the church have the ability to submit a funding request and say, hey, we work with this partner organization somewhere in the globe and they have some financial need. Here's what we're requesting. And then once a quarter, the staff meet and they decide on what they're going to give to, whether it's a partial or full, or they're just not going to give it all at that time. And they actually run that meeting using Salesforce. And then for gifts that are approved, they will manage a bunch of document requirements. So they've got to have certain tax forms. Sometimes they require annual reports. And they actually use Salesforce to track whether or not they've received the documents that they need in order to be able to distribute funds. And by taking this approach, not only are they logging the phone calls and the meetings that they're having with these partners, but incorporating the distributions out to them gives them that full 360-degree picture of their relationship with those organizations. So very different than tracking those $100 a month recurring gifts or tracking those major gifts. Again, using Salesforce to distribute funding is a really powerful capability. The next example that I always like talking about is with an organization that does education around the globe. And we started working with them strictly in the donor management capacity. And one day, sitting in the conference room with the executive director, started talking about the operational aspect and what are they struggling with. And there were tons and tons of things they were tracking on spreadsheets and sticky notes and hoping that they could accurately track everything that the organization was doing. And it just wasn't working, as I'm sure you can imagine. So anywhere across the globe, they are putting on tons and tons of classes each week. And we ended up building a data model and functionality within Salesforce that allowed them to track what countries they were operating in, the languages that their content was developed in, what the different types of content were, where they had gaps. Maybe they had this content piece, but they needed another language. Salesforce was able to show them the gaps of where that was. And then most importantly, they were able to use Salesforce to track the outcomes. So the group leaders that are deployed out in the field all over the globe were inputting information about their classes each week. And now with that outcome data combined with the donation data that they already had in Salesforce, they were able to come back and tell a very, very compelling story, a very powerful story to their board of directors and to their major donors. We all want to be able to tell our donors, how effective we're being with the funds that they're generous with. And Salesforce really enabled that for this particular group. All right, so favorite part here, we're going to do a live demo. And I want to emphasize, we have built this demo out in a very high level. There's not a lot that we've done in this. And if you were to implement Salesforce, yours might look very different. My hope today is that in seeing this, it will just give you an idea of the kinds of things that can be done with the platform. All right, so when we first log into Salesforce, we're taken to the home screen. This home screen is highly configurable, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move throughout the page. Up here at the top is our search bar. It is a Google-like search where we can put in a keyword, and Salesforce will return all of the records that are relevant to that keyword. Across the top, we have these tabs. These tabs represent different functional areas within the application. We'll start here on the home page. We have all kinds of widgets, for lack of a better term, that we can put on the home page. And again, your home page could end up looking very different, but kind of a default out of the box. Here we have our quarterly performance. So we set a goal for the quarter. Hey, we need to raise $1 million. And we can actually track and see what we've already raised, what we have in our pipeline, and how that compares to our goals. Over here, we have our events. So this is this has the ability to tie into your calendar. So if you're using Google Apps or Office 365 or a more recent version of Microsoft Exchange, Salesforce provides tools that will actually sync your calendar across both systems so you can have that centralized view over here. So here we are presenting on the webinar, and this afternoon I'm supposed to have coffee with a major donor. Similar to our events, we can use Salesforce as our task tracking tool or our to-do list. And so here I've got a to-do, a task set to send a thank you note to a recent donor. And we can even see who that donor is and what gift this is in reference to here on our screen. Whoops. There we go. And then just to give you a sense for what some of these other widgets are that we can bring in here, Salesforce has this recent records. And so these are records that I have worked on recently in the system. And if I need to hop back to those really quickly, I can do that from here. And then Salesforce also has some AI built into it. So we're seeing these key deals and this assistant that is suggesting to us, hey, you might need to take action on this. This is kind of getting stale. Nothing's happened with this in quite some time. So that's our homepage. Let's hop over and talk about accounts. The best way that I can describe an account is it is a way to logically group people or transactions. An account might represent a household. So for the people, your normal donor type, we might represent them as a household, or we might be working with organizations like a foundation or a business that you have a relationship with. Salesforce gives us the ability to split that out. And when we were to go and create a new account, we have the ability to specify what type of account are we working with. I mentioned earlier that Salesforce also works in higher ed. You might have other academic institutions here. So that's the high level on an account. One of the things that's really great about Salesforce is the ability to really tailor the experience, tailor the fields and the things that we display, not just to your organization, making your pages look different than another nonprofit, but also we have the ability to tailor the experience to the context of who we're working with. And so here we're on a household account. And if we were to flip back and go over to the an organizational account, we can actually display different fields, different information about this than we would with a household account. I'm going to flip back over here to the Draper household. You may have seen that on the previous record that was an organization, we had a field here that said website. Well, most households don't have their own website, so we don't display that because it doesn't make sense in this context. So here we have the Draper household, and we can see that John is our primary contact. And here we can track address information, general description. But one of the things I really like about the tool is this kind of donor intelligence, this great little snapshot we get that gives us a look at our history with this particular donor. So here we can see they've been giving since 2016. Most recently, they gave in January of 2021. Maybe this is somebody we need to touch base with because it's been over a year since we've received anything. Their average gift over time is a little under $800. 2017 was the best gift year that we've had with them. And I won't go through all of these, but you get the sense of what what kind of intelligence we're able to surface here. The next thing that I'm going to hop into is an opportunity. And I actually want to call one out here specifically. For organizations that are grant funded, maybe you apply for dozens and dozens of grants knowing you're not going to get them all, but you're going to get some of them, or you're going to get a lot of them. Salesforce is a great way for you to track your grant pipeline. So we could come in and track, where do we stand? So here we've made our grant proposal to the Gates Foundation for 2022. We don't yet know if we're going to get it. It's not yet decided. They haven't awarded the grants yet. So Salesforce can help us create that grant pipeline. And then over time, as we receive payments against a grant, we can track the individual payments, because typically we're not going to get all of the money up front. We're going to have to submit reports once a quarter or every few months to show them what we're doing with the funds in order to get that next payment. Salesforce will let you track it very granularly. And then similar, if you are a grant funded organization and you need to track the reports that are due, Salesforce gives you the ability to put those deliverables here into the system so that you can assign out, hey, Joe, you're responsible for this report and here's when it's due. And Salesforce will even allow you to status what you've actually done with it. The final thing that I want to touch on is the ability to track our giving in different buckets. So any nonprofit that does fundraising, you've probably got multiple funds. You've got your general fund, you've got the annual banquet, you've got the 5K fun run, you've got the water wells in Africa, or some other specific project that you're working on. Within Salesforce, we have the ability to break out and attach the gifts that we're receiving to your different funds, and then get intelligence about how we're doing with that particular fund. So here we are looking at the general fund, and we've raised a little over $1.2 million in the general fund up to this point. That is super fast, super high level. If there are other parts of Salesforce that you have questions about, or things that you'd actually like to do a deeper dive on, I'd be more than happy to set up a one-on-one conversation to take you through that. And if Salesforce is something that you're interested in, if you go out to salesforce.org/get started, you can actually begin the process of applying for those 10 free licenses, and they'll actually give you access to the system immediately so you can get your hands on it right away. And with that, we will open up the floor for questions.
If you have any questions, please just drop them into the Q&A link at the bottom.
I guess we answered them all.
We answered them all. So it's exciting, Scott. It sounds like if someone is interested, it's something that they would be able to get rolling with in their organization fairly quickly.
That's right, and we can help you get there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone so much for attending. We will send out a recording of this to everyone who has signed up for the session. Thank you very much, and thank you, Scott, for your time as well.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.